I started music in the 70s. I grew up in Ireland, and of course, it was during the Troubles. And we did a lot of classical music, which is where I first started. But of course, very quickly, I found Top of the Pops every Thursday night. And we didn't listen to a lot of music in the house. We didn't have a record player, didn't have really a tape recorder, but we did listen to a lot of John Peel on the wireless, as we called it. So no internet, no sharing music, no Spotify. But we came across tracks that we liked. We talk about at school. At the time, it was very much rock music, AC/DC, Led Zeppelin. But quickly, that turned into what was happening with punk and new wave in the mid '70s. And I continued with the classical music, but immediately my interest was drawn to guitar, rock, punk, new wave. And based on that, really the future for me from then on was how do I get in a band, how do I become famous, how do I get all the stuff that for me I assumed was associated with fame, which was the lovely wife, the great house, as the song goes by Talking Heads, the big car, all the nice equipment, and traveling around the world. After my degree in the 80s in music, in classical music, I came to London, really to give that side of life a chance. The challenges at that time, much as they are today, is how do you get noticed? How do you afford your instruments? How do you afford rehearsals? How do you afford recording studios? And in that aspect, nothing's really changed. In fact, it's probably got worse. London's not a great place in some respects to do any of that because the cost of living is so high anyway. And yet it always ends up coming to London, no matter where you are or where you've started in the UK. And so I was in a band with a friend I'd grown up in Derry with, Tim, and we saw the writing on the wall for what we were doing, which was the indie pop thing. But everything was getting taken over by dance. And we decided to take the songs we'd written and turn them into a new kind of material, which we called dance pop. So it had all the danceability of the dance floor and the club land at the time, but it also had the guitars and bass that we could take out on the road. That then turned into Baby June. The reason why it was called Baby June was quite funny because we always thought that dance, it was so kind of lesser than in terms of the intellectual capacity it had. You don't want to intellectualize pop, but if you listen back to even the best music of the 70s, the variation in rhythm, in melodies, in simply the way lines are sung, is completely different to what it was back in the 90s. And we had this idea that in the 80s, that actually by June 1990, the dance thing would have run its course. So you can see right away why we never made fame and fortune, because we were always either behind the curve or on the completely different curve altogether. What happened was we decided to call BB June 1990 like Best Before June 1990. So that was the name of the band. We even had a barcode to go with the band. And then I was telling a friend that was the name of the band, and they thought I'd said Baby June. And when I came back to the rehearsal and we realized we were getting closer to June 1990 and we hadn't had any success, we decided Baby June was a good way to go. So the band did quite well. We did a number of tours with Jason Donovan. He was big at the time. Toured the UK with him. Then we did our own tour of the college circuit with Stella Artois. And we had a couple of singles out. Some good dance singles got into the top 10. And then the height for us was when we did the video for I Will Be Free. Back in Hoxton Square, back in the days when Hoxton Square in London really wasn't the place you went. But based on that, we again, it signed Sign of the Times was we were at number 73 and going down when we made the video. So it was pretty cottage industry stuff, and we never really managed to pull it off in the end. But the other part that kind of links back to what happens today is our good friend Peter with D-Ream. We both did big tours. He did the bigger one with Take That. We did the smaller one with Jason Donovan. The interesting thing was, though, I always think that he got his 2 pages in the Take That program. We didn't get anything in the Jason Donovan program, and in fact, typical of the industry, we didn't get to do the largest gigs with him. So we got all the other ones, like the Winter Gardens in Margate, which was great. It was brilliant, but it just meant you weren't getting that profile that otherwise might have made a difference between a career and not having a career. So in the end, we ran out of money. The record label had signed us for a couple of singles, signed up to do the video. When we'd finished that, we finished the band, really. We got together again once more for a bit of a couple of gigs. We ended up doing the Magdalen Ball at Oxford University, which was quite funny, especially if you like mattress surfing. That was fun. And we did one last gig at what is now Nell's Kitchen down in South Kensington. And that was it. And after that, we kept friends, kept in touch, did other things, but ultimately the band had run its course. Then after we got to the point where the career was over as such, yeah, I was in other bands and doing other things, but around that time I'd also got married, started a family, and I realised that the career wasn't really paying in music, and I decided, right, I needed something else, so I started in a marketing role, which I quite enjoyed, because in some ways there was a link between writing songs to get a message across and writing advertising to get a message across. It was very similar in trying to get an emotion that people would connect with or resonate with into a small finite number of paragraphs or words. That took me through the first couple of years of my life, a post-music career as it were, but at the same time I kept playing, I kept performing, as much as I realised it was exactly what I wanted to do, which was have family, be married, and set out on that part of my life. I realised the music was always going to be with me anyway, and I think it was at that time that I started to understand that there is a difference between getting some of the things you want that you thought you could only get through the music career. You can actually get them somewhere else. And then in terms of how that impacted my decision, to progress into a new profession, it was very much looking at ways in which I could do both. And the money obviously comes in handy, because once you're definitely not pursuing a career in music, you're not looking for publishing deals, you're not looking for record deals, and as such it means that you're left to find your own funding. And it seems remarkable today that crowdfunding and that way of raising money to make music is quite accepted, but back then it was still very much trying to get product out into the marketplace that you could sell to build up money for the next session in the studio or to do the next tour. And the other thing that's changed a lot is back then you would never get a record label supporting you on tour. They saw it as a kind of inconvenience almost, because they got all their money from product. But of course, as the career changed and as the industry moved on and it became online, now you get all your music pretty much product free, format free if you like, it's all streamed. And now the deals are very much absolutely around festivals, around tours. And if you sign a deal today, you probably sign one that's going to be a 360 deal, which means everything you do that earns money, you'll get some of that asked back from you by the label, by the publisher, by your manager, by the agent. In terms of putting aside the aspirations that I had for myself in music, I realised that they were kind of slightly shallow, and I had slightly polluted my love of music for my love of wanting a career stroke fame. And that was an important realization, or an important revelation in my life, because I suddenly recognized I was getting much more back in terms of being a human being and being fully engaged in life as a husband, as a father, because when you're always looking for that event that will take you to the next level in your career. You're never really in the present moment. You're constantly wondering, will my track make it to the top 40 this week? Will my tour come off next year? Will I get that TV appearance that I'm looking for in prime time? Will I get those radio plays? And you're never really fully in the moment, which I think is different to the way the artists that I grew up with in the 70s, where they didn't have that career sense. They really looked at it as a different way of doing work. They would turn up the recording studio where people in brown coats or white coats would look after the engineering and the producing. They themselves would just be there to record and make music. And so I think I put aside a lot of what I thought were aspirations when I realized they really were quite shallow. And the focus for me was to really think about the music I really wanted to make while enjoying family life.
Sand that catches between my toes, I shake loose. It might smother me. Rain that falls from the mountains on my face, I wipe that too. It might cover me. Where have all the children gone? They've listened to their fathers, everyone. Where are the hands that should have played with toys? The crushing hearts that prayed for joy. And it's so sad, and it's so wrong. All the love is gone. It's so sad, it's so wrong. All the love is gone. I don't care, I don't mind. You can kill each other, for you're so blind. You wouldn't see the sun anyway if it should shine on you someday. You've darkened the shadows of the mountains I love, spilled blood on the sand I built my castles in, and I can't come home now. And it's so sad, and it's so wrong, all the love is gone. It's so sad, it's so wrong, all the love is gone.
As an extension to that idea of moving on from just having aspirations for the music versus having aspirations for another career, I realized that the heart of that was saying yes. And as I got older, I guess, and more mature about thinking about life, I said yes more often. And I think the best way to describe how that helped in both senses was when in recent years, one of the yeses ended up me getting to do a conference in the Maldives, because I didn't know where it was going to be. I didn't know what it was going to be for. I just said yes. Someone said, would you speak at a conference? I got into the habit of saying yes. And then I asked, by the way, where is it? Is it in the city or is it in the West End? And they said, no, actually it's in the Maldives. So that was a great response. A couple of years later, someone said, on my music life, I'm doing a big event. I'd love you to play. Will you do it? I said, yes, of course. Yes is my, go-to word. And that yes turned out to involve me supporting Van Morrison last summer in Ireland, which was fantastic. So I think in terms of those big experiences, they proved for me that what we hear a lot about at the moment is don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And if I look back over the questions asked today, and I look back over the career that they make me think about, in both careers, both the music and in the professional career, when you think too much, you get nothing done. When you procrastinate, when you make perfection become that enemy that actually stops you from doing anything. So that's really how I think the experiences up to date have shaped my life.
Sun goes down on another day for me and you. World goes round no matter what we say or do. The moon comes up and lights the road ahead Out on the ocean, a fisherman lets down his net. In 100 years from now, we'll all be dead. And it makes me think about the life I want to leave behind instead. I'm spending much less time in bed. Truth is, I don't know.
In terms of supporting the music ongoing, now I remember George Martin, when he finished doing the Beatles, he was asked, you know, would you do another Beatles? And he said, well, no, I won't, because it takes 6 months to make an album. And he then went on and did a lot of comedy and a lot of jazz, because he said he could do an album in 6 weeks. And I think that's where I've got to. I do many more collaborations since I brought my own album out a few years ago, which took a lot of work, really took a year to do it, both as a man with family and a man with a career. So it took a year really to finish that album. I don't really feel I've got another year to spend doing one album. So now I do a lot of collaborations, get involved with a lot of other people, and it does make it much more rewarding, and often pushes me as a performer, as an artist, as a singer, into areas I wouldn't normally feel comfortable, and that's been a hugely rewarding experience. And likewise, in the professional career, I found really since I did the Van Morrison gig, I've not hidden that I have this other life away from my professional network, and that in itself has also brought rewards where people engage with you more. They like to see that there's a fully operational human being behind the professional mask, as it were. And I think that maybe is a message going forward for many of us these days. We don't have to have these big separate careers anymore. We can do many things, and we can be many faces to the people we engage with, and it's good to be open and honest about all of them.
Out on the ocean, a fisherman lets down his net. Out on the ocean, a fisherman lets down